Now that we're so close to Fontaine, I wanted to do some retrospective videos on some of the things that happened during the Sumeru arc that I think are really, really cool. Be it a couple of characters that I think are massively undervalued, or some teams that I'm absolutely loving. I wanted to look back at how Genshin has progressed over this past year, just before things probably will change dramatically again. Today I wanted to talk about someone who I mentioned in the last video, someone who showed up in 3.0, someone who I've hardly never ever done a video on. It's weird. But I really like his kit, so I feel like it's probably time I actually do a video on him. Tighnari, I feel like, is a dude who, because he's on the standard banner, he's often ignored when it comes to discussing who is a really, really strong character. On the rare occasion that someone actually does a showcase of Tighnari, you often see a lot of people who are like, whoa, holy crap, he actually does a lot of damage. Like, this air of surprise is, I feel like, kind of warranted, but at the same time, he is really, really strong. So, you know, especially when it comes to high Constellation Tighnari, which is theoretically easier because he's on the standard banner, but also theoretically more difficult because he's on the standard banner. He does a lot of damage. He's always been really, really strong. We're here with Tighnari and Masanori. So over this year, obviously, when Tighnari first came out, he was one of the first Dendro characters to come out. And so the evolution, I feel like, of Tighnari's power level was that he started off as a character who pretty much always used 4-piece Deepwood. And then later on, Nahida came out, Baiju came out, and suddenly, like, we have a whole lot of other options. Really, like, massively increasing Tighnari's damage by itself. So in this case, his charge attacks are actually doing 40,000 damage. Because Nahida is also doing 40,000 damage, but Nahida can't attack twice in one go. That's how I know that that was Tighnari's damage. He's also doing quite a lot of damage in his charge attack. He's always actually been this strong. What makes Tighnari such a great character is that in my opinion, he's the charge attack archer. Anyone who's been following me long enough knows that I'm a bit of an archery main when it comes to Warframe and also in real life. So I love playing archers in a lot of games. But you would have thought that then I would be someone who really likes to play someone like Ganyu. That's not the case. And why is that? It's because Ganyu feels too slow. Unless you have C6 Ganyu, honestly, I feel like Ganyu's charge attacks are way too boring. Tighnari, on the other hand, is someone who is essentially C6 Ganyu. He is Dendro C6 Ganyu. In fact, he has Dendro C6 Ganyu times 3, because when you use your skill, you get 3 fast charge attacks. And then on top of that, his grenade, being his skill, is a taunt. Kind of like C6 Ganyu. Well, kind of like Ganyu, actually. His ult is also an ability that does a lot of damage, but I think, generally speaking, it doesn't do as much damage as his charge attacks, especially if you're using certain weapons. Now, there are a couple of ways of playing Tighnari. There's a couple of combos that you can consider playing with Tighnari. Honestly, I just go with the easy one, which is just basically chuck the grenade, use the ult, 3 charge attacks, move on. There is a combo where if you can somehow weave in a Wreath Arrow, which is your fast charge attack, before you use your ult, after you use your grenade, of course, then theoretically, you should be doing a bit more damage because you're going to get a 50 EM bonus as part of one of his Ascension passives. But I've done the math. It's just a 3% damage bonus. Okay, cool, whatever. Look, if you can do it, do it. If your ping is too high, like mine usually is, and you're worried that you're going to accidentally catch energy particles before throwing out your ult and therefore not pre-funneling, then honestly, sack it. That's what I reckon. Just sack it. Now, when it comes to building Tighnari, he's actually pretty straightforward. In terms of weapons, the 5-star weapons anyway, if you got Hunter's Parts during his weapon banner, that's the weapon that you should be using. That's it. Otherwise, you could try and use Amos Bow. It's pretty good. Just make sure that your build can suffice with the EM and crit artifacts and all that jazz. Alternatively, you could use something like Aqua Simulacra. Aqua Simulacra, of course, being a massive crit damage stat stick, but it also comes with some damage bonus if you happen to be close enough to your enemies, and Tighnari is actually decently fine even in short range. You don't have to be like massively long range to play Tighnari. So yeah, that's something that you can do. You can actually use Aqua Simulacra. It's a potentially good idea.
Value of knowledge cannot simply be quantified.
Otherwise, other 5-star DPS bows are also fine. Nothing too amazing. Honestly, at this point, I think if you have a Skyward Harp, just stick to that. Especially if you have a high refinement Skyward Harp, that should be pretty good. Because what is that bow? It's crit rate and crit damage. Woohoo! So yeah. In terms of the 4-star bows, Prototype Crescent is still the recommendation for 4-star bows because he doesn't really have a dedicated 4-star bow himself. So there are going to be some enemies that don't have weak spots, so it's kind of going to suck if you're going up against those kind of enemies. But keep in mind as well, Prototype Crescent, it's just a lot of attack percent, which is still useful, but it's not like going to be super duper amazing. That being said though, there is a new weapon that came out during the 3.7 TCG event, so if you did that, you might have the Ibis Piercer. Now this weapon also has an attack substat, which is kind of hilarious, but what it also brings is a lot of EM when you do 2 charge attacks. That kind of sounds like something that is designed for Tighnari and also Milk Ganyu, but mainly for Tighnari, you can definitely use Ibis Piercer. It is probably the most free-to-play option that he has that I think is actually very, very recommended. For the longest time, I thought that Hamayumi should be something that you'd be recommended for Tighnari, but it turns out that Hamayumi is not so good. Why? Because Hamayumi's passive requires you to have 100% of your energy. Thing is, by the time you have 100% of your energy, you should be throwing out your ult because Tighnari's ult does do quite a lot of damage. So, as a general sense, you won't have all of your energy back. That being said, if you're playing a team like the one I was playing just then with like 2 other Dendro characters, one of which is Nahida, who is actively generating energy off field anyway, perhaps you might find yourself with a lot of energy even right after you've thrown out your ult. And if that's the case, consider Hamayumi. Otherwise, other 4-star DPS bows can be used on him. They're otherwise just stat sticks. So bows like the Stringless is mainly just a big stat stick, but it is kind of nice. You will probably want to consider leveling up your grenade at that point. I haven't. Viridescent Hunt is good, mainly because it's a crit rate stat stick, whatever. Blackcliff is also good, mainly because it's a crit damage stat stick, whatever. So yeah, a lot of other 4-star bows are really just stat sticks or have some other drawbacks. In terms of the artifacts, I think most people are just running 4-piece Wanderers on Tighnari. I mean, it makes sense. It's the charge attack set to use. 4-piece Gilded should work as well on him. I'm obviously just running 2-piece Deepwood, 2-piece EM. Don't use TF. Thundering Fury doesn't work because Triggering Spread is not an electro reaction, just heads up with that. I suppose you could use potentially one of the upcoming artifact sets. Thanks to the Sussy Baka leaks that we have right now, it might be really, really good on him. We'll just have to see. Either way, whatever set combination you choose to use, in terms of the actual artifacts themselves, EM Dendro Crit is pretty much the way to go. With the rare exception of you having a horrendously garbage Dendro Cup versus an absolute Giga Chad 50 CV EM Cup, if that's the case, test against Masanori, but maybe you might be able to get away with an EM crit build for the time being. But generally speaking, as soon as you get a good Dendro Cup, that's it, EM Dendro Crit. And finally, when it comes to Tighnari's Constellations, obviously because he's a standard banner character, you think that he has horrendous standard banner Constellations, but for a standard banner character, he's actually got some really, really good Constellations. I already have C1 Tighnari, so my charge attacks are at a higher crit rate effectively. It's also quite hilarious for a Constellation when you consider that the story quest Tighnari with the Noblesse set, you know, Cursed Noblesse set and Hunter's Path already had 100% crit rate, actually a little bit more than that, but then it was a C3 Tighnari that you were playing in the story quest, so you also had the additional 15% crit rate, which basically meant it's one of those few times where the story quest character that Hoyoverse came up with actively made one of the Constellations completely useless. But yeah, I have C1 Tighnari, so my charge attacks were going from 56% crit rate to 71% crit rate, so that's actually really, really nice. C2, Tighnari sounds difficult to utilize until you remember that his grenade is a taunt, so usually enemies should be hanging around the field for his taunt, meaning that you're going to get additional Dendro damage bonus, which is going to be double dipping into your spread reaction. So that's of course going to be really, really good. C3 and C5. C3 is good because it's ult increase. C5 is meaningless. It's grenade increase, whatever, who cares? I mean, if you could level up your ult and do... you could level up your grenade and do some additional damage. I don't think it's really all that important. C4 is a free instructor set tied to his ult, which is going to be hilarious for Dendro teams in general. So that also includes like using it with a team that's got like Miko, Nahida, Baiju, Fischl, you know, a lot of characters that are going to work really, really well with Tighnari are going to really like having C4 as that extra EM. And C6 is actually kind of just busted insane. It's even faster charge attacks for those Wreath Arrows. You also get an additional instance of Dendro application per Wreath Arrow by having an additional Wreath Arrow that doesn't have an ICD. So basically, instead of like your charge attacks having 2 instances of Dendro application and therefore 2 spread reactions, you actually get 3. If I do ever get C6, then I'm probably going to really start using him in co-op gameplay as well because of that faster charge attack. One thing that's often said about Tighnari is that he's very single target, and that would be his weakness, but honestly, given the past Spiral Abysses being a lot of boss rushes, it's actually his biggest strength. He does so much damage and so quickly, it's kind of insane. Honestly, even against large groups of enemies, he's not particularly that bad either. I feel like a lot of people kind of really look at the fact that he's mainly single target focused and think, oh, well, he's no good in AoE. He's actually pretty good, especially because with the way that how ICD works with regards to like ICD amongst enemies, his Wreath Arrows, his ult, they do end up spreading and hitting multiple enemies. It's not with like the various missiles, so you can get a lot of spread reactions without necessarily worrying about ICD too much. But yeah, that's basically it with Tighnari. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. How do you feel about Tighnari? Let me know in the comments how if you built him as well. Do you use him a lot these days, or, you know, how do you feel about him? One thing to definitely keep in mind as well, and this is actually something that I think I should hammer as a point when it comes to Tighnari and also Senno and Alhaitham. Because there was a period of time where I thought that, oh, well, Tighnari kind of seems extremely mid. Alhaitham seems extremely mid. Senno seems so mid to the point where I'm damn near going to call him a regrettable pull. But that was during the time that they were only level 80. Once I leveled 90 these 3 dudes, I no longer feel that way about Tighnari, Alhaitham, and Senno. So it really does make a huge difference in terms of their damage output to go from level 80 to level 90. Obviously, it's something that I think a lot of people have talked about before, but I wanted to just hammer that point again. Max out Tighnari if you want to play Tighnari. If you like Tighnari's playstyle, but you're wondering why he's not doing a whole lot, max him out first. It makes a huge difference. In a similar fashion, if you like playing Senno, but you're wondering why he kind of feels like he's not really doing a whole lot, max him out first. Level 90 his ass. And the same idea with Alhaitham. Anyway, that's going to be it. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comments below. Otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed this. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe for more Genshin Impact action. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Possible.
The Temple of Wisdom! The doctor will see you now.
Taking a... Can't see? Let's nip that in the bud.
I can't lose it again.